Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome back to another episode in regards to the PlayStation 5. And my last PlayStation 5 video, I was very surprised as to how well that did. So surprised, in fact, that I definitely would like to make it a trend to keep talking about the PlayStation 5, my inputs and stuff like that. Probably essentially become like the Arlo with the PlayStation 5, but I sincerely doubt I'll be able to keep that up for very much longer. But what I will say is this, is that after having the PlayStation 5 for a little bit longer compared to that video I had it for like a week, and some noticeable one was something that I wanted to talk about and stuff like that. And now that I've had it for a little bit longer, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty details that, while may not seem problematic right now, may eventually become problematic in the future. So let's first talk about some of the more crucial details. For example, its menu. So, the menu, when you look at it, isn't bad. It doesn't look like it would be a problem. In fact, really, in all honesty, as of right now, it wouldn't be an issue. But imagine 5 years from now, maybe even potentially 8 years, essentially the system's lifespan. You know, how many games would you have by that point? How many games would you have that would show up on that little tab? Quite a lot, probably. In fact, I guarantee you, a number of you probably noticed that part, for some of you who have had it since its first initial launch. And I kind of noticed that. I've noticed that because whenever I was exploring that tab bar and stuff like that, I realized there was no way to actually remove it from that little tab thing. Now, here's the thing. While it does show up on the tab part, there's also a subcategory where all of your games are labeled and everything, you know, from alphabetical order. However way of order you want to put it in, it orders it in that specific spot. You have the immediate hardware category and then your overall library, which is very good to have. But we're talking about the tab part because there's no way of actually sorting through that as a moment right now. There is no way of actually sorting through that. Now, why would that be an issue? Because on the PlayStation 4, you do have the ability to where you can custom make folders where the tabs don't feel elongated. You know, after a while, that tab will get longer and longer. So you have two options. Either one, you delete files that you don't want to delete right off the bat because you feel like you may go back to playing it. Or, worst case scenario, there's DLC content on there that you don't want to lose. That makes perfect sense to not want to delete it. It's because of those DLC options, you know. Final Fantasy 15 had a lot of DLCs, and I don't have the Royal Edition, so I don't want to just buy Royal Edition, even though that might be a cheaper alternative at this rate. But, you know, I don't want to lose all that save data and stuff like that. And then there'll be some games, for example, Final Fantasy 14, where you are required to have a save data in order to have that profile on you at all times, for the longevity and everything like that. Now, some would argue and say there's a cloud save, but I still find it a little iffy about the cloud saves myself, in all honesty. I don't fully trust a cloud save myself, technically, but that's just me. And so, the tab things, I would like it to where you could organize it, or at least condense it, to where that way it doesn't feel as elongated, you know what I mean? Because eventually, what's going to happen is this. Is that, yes, you do have that section where your games are, and you can just go into it and then problem solve. But let's say you have to go to the PlayStation Network store, you know, and it's all the way on the opposite end of the screen. So, after a long period of time, if nothing is resolved, you're going to be like, and it could take a while. I'm not saying that everybody has like 100 games installed. I mean, true, 1 terabyte is a lot, but compared to the PlayStation 5's games list, it's going to fill up pretty quickly. But depending on your library and depending on the games, it could get tedious for a while. So I would like the option to where, you know, you could have like a little tab option. Maybe if I explored a little bit more, there might be another option to where you could just like a shortcut menu or whatever, to where you can go to the tab where it has all your games available, and then tab to go to the PlayStation Network sites. I don't know. Maybe that might be something that might update. I haven't really looked into it that deeply. I just noticed that was a thing that I was doing a lot of, and I was like, if this continues, it could get ridiculous. It's a little tedious. It's nothing that would break the entire thing, but it's something that I felt like could be fixed later on, maybe, I hope. The second thing that I want to talk about is actually in regards to the PlayStation Classic lineup. Now, I talked about it in my last video, but my problem was that I didn't see a Classic section. There technically is. There is. Not where you want it to be, I'm afraid. So, let's say you want to go into that Classic lineup. Well, you scroll through that tab all the way to the very end, and next to the PlayStation Store tab is the PlayStation Plus tab. That PlayStation Plus tab is where it's at. You seem confused by this. Well, allow me to explain even further. PlayStation has been updated to where it's not just PlayStation Plus, it's also PlayStation Plus with PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now was a streaming service that Sony had a while back that had the ability to where you can stream and download games. Technically, in terms of downloads, it was 1, 2, and 4 selected ones, mind you. But 3s was all only streaming. There was no way you could download it. And their quote phrase was that the PlayStation 3 coding would overheat the system. Even though I find that to be bullshit, and I guarantee there are the team of emulators out there in the net that's already figured this out before Sony could even think that was a problem. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, point is that PlayStation Now has been infused with PlayStation Plus. It's now one whole thing, which makes it a lot easier, a lot more sensible, makes perfect sense. Now, for the record, it's not perfect, unfortunately. The way they've got this all coded and stuff like that, it's not even a complete list, per se. I mean, there's also the said aforementioned Final Fantasy Classic games that were available for PS4. They don't have that on there to where you can recognize it or whatever. And there's also a few other HD remasters / remakes that never got put under this list. So it's kind of a weird organized mess. But not only that, games like, for example, the God of War series and Ratchet & Clank, while some of them were released for PlayStation 2, the coding is that of the PlayStation 3. And as I have said before, PlayStation 3 games are only streamable, not downloadable, unfortunately. So, while technically they're there, you won't be able to download them because it's under the PlayStation 3 codec rather than the PlayStation 4. So that's why you see like the Jak and Daxter series, due to its coding of the PlayStation 4, and it not be the PlayStation 3. Whatever was coded recently, it's on there. So it's kind of a mess, unfortunately. But there are still some games that are purchasable, like, say, Legends of Dragoon, OK Shadow King, stuff like that. So it's hit or miss. It does need to be better. In fact, it should be better. It's got little problems that equal up to a much bigger problem that's going to escalate eventually that should be resolved. For example, the PlayStation 5 controller. Now, I've talked about my complaints about the PlayStation 5 before, but I haven't really talked about some of the more lingering problems that I didn't notice. And that is these things right here. The little triggers. Now, for whatever reason, Sony's engineering team decided to make these controls sensitive. What do I mean? Well, in Astro Boy, there's a minigame in which where you are basically a monkey, a robotic monkey. And there's a section in that climbing minigame in which where there are certain panels that are very weak, and if you press it too hard, they'll break instantly. So you have to carefully press down on it in order to hang on to it without gripping it, so that way you can climb up the rest of it. I hate that. I really, really hate that, because to remotely get that in there and stuff like that, you have to have like pure precision controls and stuff. Now, obviously, depending on who you are, that might be a good thing in terms of like trigger options, stuff like that. Instead of having to constantly cluck into it, it's just a simple tap and stuff. But for sensitive stuff like that could get annoying after a while, carefully things and stuff like that, or have to be forcefully pounding, after a while, that might get annoying. And then depending on the longevity of the controller, it could wear it down too. The little mechanism to judge that little thing, it could become a malfunction later on. And if we've learned anything the PlayStation 5 also suffers from drift. If you don't know what that is, it's a Nintendo thing that's happened, and now Sony has it, where its analog stick will just drift on its own. It will do stuff by itself without you actually doing anything. Sometimes you can just lightly tap it, and it will just revolve the camera or move the character by itself, or it could be just automatic. It's a weird thing. Some people have troubleshooted to figure out how to fix it and stuff like that, but most of it is like internal, where you have to actually tear it apart, go in there, do something with it, and then that way it fixes the drift itself permanently. But the way they've got it fixed up, I feel like in the long scheme, it would only become problems later on. So again, like I said, I like a cheaper alternative without all the little bells and whistles that it doesn't really need. It doesn't really need an in-game speaker thing. It doesn't need a powerful vibration controls. Dadgummit, I can't speak for some reason. It doesn't need a powerful vibration control system, and it doesn't need these controller-sensitive type things in order to have it. You know, it doesn't need any of that. Why does it need it? For immersion purposes? I feel like later on they're going to be a problem somehow. That's just me looking at it from like past experience with the PlayStation 4 controller, and even the PlayStation 3 with his 6-axis controller, because my brother, who has been replaying Ratchet & Clank Tools of Destruction, where it integrates the 6-axis movement and stuff like that, is very, very clunky to use. He hates the 6-axis. So imagine this in 10 years time malfunctioning to where you can't use it. So yeah, Sony, get rid of all this little stuff that is not necessary. You know, why have them? Again, nitpick stuff, but stuff that could eventually become a big problem later on. Much like I said, the drift, the tabs, so on and so forth. But let's talk about the biggest part. And I mean, of course, the elephant in the room. This elephant in the room. The PS5 system is a big problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down in case I accidentally dropped it, because I don't want to drop it. Is that it's big. I've already talked about it before, it's big. But not just big in the scheme of like, it's just huge. It's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for most gamers, you know? You look at the previous system lineup that we've had and everything like that, it's relatively reasonable size. But the PlayStation 5 is so much of an awkward system that I can't describe it in words. It's awkward in terms of horizontal, and it's confusing, or I can't even come up with words. It's unusually large and complex in order to try to lean it downward and stuff like that. There's so many problems with it and stuff. You can't put it in long ways, or otherwise it's going to take up that much space, and you can't put it up vertically, or otherwise it's just not going to fit into the shelf. So in some cases you just got to leave it out. Some people don't want to do that. So they have to sacrifice one or the other in order for it to fit remotely possible. And it's just ridiculously dumb. This really is. Not only that, but white! White! Another big problem that I have with this thing is actually the stand. Yeah, this thing right here. I hate the stand. I hate the stand. I hate the stand. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Because you would think for something as simplistic as a console stand, you know, something simplistic would be easy to use. No. This thing wants to be complicated, and I honestly do not understand why. I don't understand its angle option, and I don't understand why it's like, as soon as you have it one way, and then you go to try to turn it another way, it's fixated. And it's like, who designed this? Who designed this? This ideal premise is not going to work for anybody. This is just ridiculous. This is stupid. And I feel like it could be a problem later on in the long scheme, like I said before in the past. So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's just imperfect. I get the ideal of what is supposed to be used and how to use and stuff. Like these little things right here is to hold the console in place, whether you lay it down or set it up and stuff. But the overall stand itself is just, ugh. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. This was a terrible idea. Regardless of that, while that is Sony's fault, that one I can fix. Yes, I can fix this. I've actually been scouring the internet in order to come up with solutions, and I have a solution. We are going to trick out this PlayStation 5. Alright, I don't know how this angle's gonna be. I know this is gonna be a little bit disoriented, but bear with me. This is the best way that I can make this work as a live type thing. So, you're gonna see me disassemble the PlayStation 5, but not completely. We're just gonna do some facial stuff and everything like that. So first and foremost, you might be asking yourself, how are you gonna remove this face plate and stuff like that? Well, thankfully there's actually a lot of YouTube videos out there that tells you how to do it. So, I've seen some people say you can pull and it will come off easily, but then there's some that actually specifically states that you pull on this corner right here, this very corner, and then as you pull it up, you then pull downward. So we're going to do that. We're going to see about doing this here. Ah, there we go. See? That's simple, actually, in all honesty. As you kind of see, there's like little hooks and stuff that keeps it upward, but of course you would have to kind of pull this up and then push downward, you know, so that makes sense. Now before we continue on any further, we do want to address something, and that is something interesting, and that's this little PlayStation logo right here. Now right now it's just black, you don't really see it that well, but we're gonna fix that with this. Now obviously this is going to be confusing right now, but I'm going to put a little sticker right here. So that way, whenever I put the new faceplate in, the PlayStation symbol will show right through it. So, I'm going to go ahead real quickly, do that. Alrighty, that's starting to look better, doesn't it? But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Obviously, you know, we got the faceplate off, but we're going to be adding a new faceplate. Obviously, I got to remove the other side, but go ahead and show you this right here. Sony makes their own faceplate. Obviously, I picked out the black one, but they do have different variants of colors, as I will show you right over here, the different colors that they have available. But I went with the black one, obviously because my other consoles are black, so it makes sense to get the black one. And plus, this will show up really well too. I should also mention as well that technically they do have other options in terms of like faceplates. Not Sony themselves, but other manufacturers that has been making them as well. There's some on SD that makes some, and then there are some on like say Amazon that sells them as well. However though, I decided to choose the PlayStation, the Sony brand version. Well, if I can get this thing off. Okay, finally got it off. Took me a while. But anyway, as I was saying, so both SD and Amazon would have been better choices, mostly because of prices. These faceplate, if you bought them from Sony, they would cost you about $60. That's pretty expensive. If you went on like Etsy or like Amazon for that matter, they would have these faceplates for like $40. So that's $20 cheaper when you think about it. The only reason why I went with the Sony instead of the other brands is because, sadly, whenever I was reading the reviews on those other brands, some of them have claimed that the faceplate just falls off, so that's not good. And secondly of all, it doesn't have this PlayStation cutout, which I want if I want this to show through. So obviously, without it, I can't do much with it. So, we're going to go ahead and put the faceplate on here. Okay. Oh, that's actually easier than I thought. No loose ends whatsoever. That's actually easy. Huh. Okay, well, now to do the opposite end. So, same thing. Pull on this end and push through. There you go, right there, easy peasy, easy as pie, and lemon squeezy and all that stuff. And then we have the bottom part of the faceplate. Much like with the last one, we're gonna put in, push it through. There we go. Alright. And there we go. Good and snug. So right there, already is starting to look a lot better. No longer about that white. It's actually black. The way that it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be initially supposed to be. So yeah, it's all... I already like this. I already like the black so far. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Why? Because I bought some new stands. This one I bought off of Etsy. And now you might be asking yourself, did you specifically get the disc version, or did you accidentally end up getting the digital version? I did look just to make certain if it was for the digital or disc versions, and I was able to find the disc versions for both of them. So naturally, I was able to get the stands as well as the faceplate. So obviously, we've got different designs here of how it's all set up and stuff. So I just gotta look at this and see which end goes where. I imagine I know which way goes where. So carefully turn this on its side here and slide this here. Oh, now that's easy. That's easy right there. And then same thing for the other side. There, just like that. They've got little stubs here to where it prevents them from sliding backwards and stuff like that. And already this thing is starting to look really good. Those stands are really nice. I'm gonna tell you right now, SD's got a lot of people who knows what they're doing. A lot of people knows what they're doing. It automatically looks good. Let me show you real quickly what it looks like with the stands and everything like that. Better stands and a nicer, slicker faceplate on it. But again, we're not done yet. Now you might be asking yourself, what else can you do with it? I'll show you. This right here. The little piece de resistance. Obviously you can tell by looking, these are the faceplate buttons that Sony has been iconically using for the past, how many years has it been since PlayStation 1? Anyway, so I decided to go with this, and it's going to slide right in here, this little slot here. So you can go ahead and carefully slide this here. Take a look at that. That looks really good. Now, I did read and everything like that. These things actually glow under UV lighting. I don't know how that works, and I imagine that won't be necessary whenever I install like LED lights or whatever, whenever I get a new stand or something like that. But if I do actually get UV lights, these things will glow, and that's going to look really nice. It's going to look really slick once this thing's put together. So I'm going to go ahead and install this bad boy real quickly, and we'll show some highlights and see how it all looks. Before we end this, I do want to talk about something else in regards to the PlayStation 5. And it's something that had actually interested me ever since they have first noted it. And that was the speed test between PS4 and PS5. Now, on the one hand, they did briefly talk about the speed processing power in regards to the games with PS4 and PS5. But they only used game footage from the most recent game, being that of Spider-Man HD or Spider-Man Miles Morales. So, in intentional ideal, that could have been just purposely just, it's there. My question is, what about older titles? You know, older titles that was first released for the PlayStation 4. And what better game to test this theory than with Bloodborne? There's been a lot of people who wanted Bloodborne to be remastered or at least have PS5 upgrade onto it. And so far, no word or news has been announced of this yet. A lot of people are asking for either a remaster or a remake. I feel like a remaster would be better, but hey, if they can add in like extra bosses or something like that in the remake, that'd be pretty cool, but I doubt we'll have that anytime soon. But my biggest question was, will it just load faster on the PlayStation 5? That was my biggest question. So I decided to do a speed test. And from loading the game to fast traveling, it is indeed faster on the PlayStation 5. But when it comes to death, it's kind of almost the same, except a few seconds faster on the PlayStation 5, obviously. Now, obviously in a game like Bloodborne, where you're going to be dying a lot, and if you've played any Souls games, you'll know that death is always a continuous thing in this game, whether stupid, purposely, or on purpose, or whatever stupid reason there is in the game. But yeah, it's just, for some reason, the death loading screen, for some reason, when it comes down to loading, is kind of almost the same length, if not just a few seconds shorter, maybe. But when it comes to loading in between areas, like fast traveling and stuff like that, or even just going to the hunter stream, or just loading the game in, whenever you're warped to another area or something like that, it loads up really quickly. So I can actually say Bloodborne does load faster on the PlayStation 5. But could it be better? Yeah, I'd be like everybody else and I would like it to be at 60 FPS, but you know, when we'll get that, who's to say? But hey, it's worth mentioning. So after all of this is assembled, all of this is put together, everything that you see here, what do you think? Not gonna lie, I have to say that despite how flawed it is, it's actually relatively simplistic to remove the faceplates, and there's still a lot of stuff out there that you could find that you could actually customize it with and stuff like that. There's other options that they have for that little slide thing and stuff like that. This one I just wanted to get because PlayStation obviously makes sense, so I just did that, and honestly it looks really good. I like this better. I like this better. Way better than the flippin' mundane white faceplate they decided to stuck with. But, it's fine. But I like how it looks now. This definitely looks a lot better. So, hey, let me know what you think, guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, I did find actually one other PlayStation 5 console that someone custom made on Etsy, and I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty badass. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm not big of a God of War fan, like some people would have been, that would have been a badass console to have. But I'm not that big, much less into the 2018 God of War, so there you go. If you wanted to know what that looked like, that's what it looks like. But hey, if there are anybody out there who has custom-made PlayStation 5 covers or stuff like that, let me know and I'll take a look at them, and maybe I might do like a PlayStation 5 console, custom console review, whatever I might call it, I don't know. But yeah, Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think so far of all the features and stuff? Do you have any nitpicks yourself that you have, much like myself with the PlayStation 5? If so, let's talk about it, and maybe Sony might actually address to those problems. I doubt they'll fix all of them, but hey, if they'll fix some of them, that might help. And in regards to the PlayStation Plus, I will say this much. Until Sony gets like key titles that would make me actually use the PlayStation Plus subscription and transfer PlayStation 3s from being streamable only to where you can download them. If they can fix that, then I think PlayStation Plus would be a little bit more feasible, you know. Even for that 120, I believe it is, 120? I think it's 120 per year. I may be wrong. I'll have to do the math and everything. But it's like 120 per year, and that's a lot when you think about it, but that's also like 2 games per year, I guess, depending on how you feel about that. But if they would make it to where PlayStation 3s were also downloadable, not just streamable, that would be very enticing, and get more titles on there. Not just random titles, actual titles that people would be more willing to actually go out of their way to have, you know, like Blood Would Tell, Rule of Rose, Raid, Robotic Atomic Drive, you know, titles that you can't find anymore or are too expensive to get, but because it being available onto their PlayStation Plus lineup, it would make sense to go ahead and have that. So yeah, just let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Let's try to make the PlayStation 5 better than what it is right now, and try to get it better. Let's make it better, you know? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.